Hi guys, welcome back to Masculine Mastery, the show where we talk about things that matter to men. With me today in this special episode in our home city of Sheffield is Mr. Ibraheem Suleiman, the human habits guy. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Asif. Jazakallah khair for having me.
Barakallah
I'm
feek.
really happy to be here. It's an honor and a guest to be your first studio, the new studio, mashallah, Mubarak. So happy.
Thank you for coming along. And we've been speaking for a few weeks, mutual friends,
Yeah.
etc. And obviously, you're rather famous on Spotify with your human habits, 102 episodes, mashallah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
And I'm new in the business, so as they say, you look up to the shoulders of giants. You're a giant in the industry
Yeah,
of
jazakallah khair.
positive psychology, habits, not just habits of the mind. You said something very important in your Instagram.
Yeah,
Habits of the heart.
habits, that's right. That's the one matters most, isn't it?
Exactly, habits. And in Arabic we said the word qalb.
Yeah.
How do you say habits of the heart in Arabic? Is it trying to find a word for it? Habits of the heart.
So my Arabic word for habit is ada. Ada, you know what I
عادة
mean?
في القلب.
Yeah, it could be.
That's it, yeah? So no, that's
Yeah,
that's
but
what
it's, even in Somali, we use the word, we borrowed the Somali word for habit is actually also ada, which we borrowed it from the Arabic language, and also means that sometimes when somebody says normal as well, we say that's adi.
That's
So we say
exactly in
normal as
Urdu.
well.
In Urdu,
Yeah.
which we speak, Urdu is 1/3 Arabic.
Yeah,
And Urdu, this is adat.
yeah,
Adat means his behavior patterns.
something normal, innit? Yeah,
exactly. So how did this come? How did you become the human habit guy?
And it's a great question. And basically, there's a long story and a short story, so I'm gonna give you the short version today. But I became interested from first of all because I struggled with my own bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
So from initially, I wasn't researching and investigating about habits
Yeah.
per se. Do you know what I mean? But it was more out of curiosity because I fell in with the wrong crowd of friends, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Which begs the question: why don't we learn from our own experiences,
Yes,
which
yes.
we'll come to later. But so from that struggle of then I was trying to actually change. I had good intention, desire, and despite my good intention, desire, and numerous attempts to change, all I kept experiencing was failure after failure. And if you've ever experienced the frustration of trying but failing, you know that's a horrible feeling, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because the human nature, human tendency is to give up. That's naturally, if you tried something so many times and you kept failing, the nature of human is to despair and to give up.
It's a survival mechanism, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's a survival mechanism where it's inbuilt in us.
Yeah.
From in our brainstem
Yeah.
to conserve energy.
So if you keep trying something and you failing, so naturally that's the natural disposition for humans. The tendency
exactly.
is if we get into a struggle or we struggle with something is to despair and to give up. But
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, I didn't give up because as Muslims we know never to give up. And there's first way Allah says, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. Allah says, oh, you my servant who has wronged his soul,
Yeah.
do not
Despair.
despair of the mercy of Allah, for verily He forgives all sins. And don't despair. He's the most merciful and often forgiven. So, and obviously, naturally, if you believe in Allah and you have that inkling of hope, you're
fitrah.
still alive. Yeah, as long as you have, as a human being at all, as long as you've got hope in your heart, then whatever, it doesn't matter what the struggle, or even if you hope for something positive, like when you're not just struggling with a bad habit, but say like if you're hoping for something, as long as you've got hope. And one researcher said hope is to human psychology what oxygen is to the body.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
You know what I mean? So that's what hope is, because
Yeah.
hope keeps you alive.
Yeah.
So because I had that hope, I made when I realized it made 2 things happen. First, I was speaking to family and friends about it. Naturally, you do that, don't you? When you're struggling with something, you say, you know what, I'm trying to quit smoking. I'm trying to quit this. Somalians, we have chewing cat as well. So I'm trying to stop this. So you naturally talk to people about it, innit?
Yeah.
And then I noticed that the people fell into 2. One was like, people who are thinking, are you crazy even questioning our behavior? This is normal.
It's normal, yeah.
It's normal, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the other type of people who say, oh, you know what, I know what you mean. I'm struggling with this as well.
Yeah.
And then those kind of people, you relate to them. And then you realize that it's not just you. You realize that behavior change is not easy. Do you get it?
You know, that reminds me of a quote.
Yeah.
It's C.S. Eliot.
Yeah.
Yes, C.S. Eliot. He had a quote. It says, friendship starts
Yeah.
at the moment one person says to another,
Yeah.
what? you as well?
Yeah.
I thought it was only me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and
That's true.
It's so true, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You question, you're surprised. You as well?
Yeah.
I thought it was only me.
Yeah.
And that mutual connection then starts friendship.
Yeah, and also you also realize that this struggle of quitting smoking is not just because naturally you think that if you struggle to quit smoking, or let's say about any bad habit. So for me, smoking and chewing cat in Somali,
Yeah.
but it could also be for other people. It could be alcohol. It could be porn addiction. It could be the many other types of
Caffeine addiction, we mentioned.
Yeah, coffee, anything you're
Yeah.
trying to. So any behavior that's having a negative effect on your life that you want to change. If you're struggling with it, you naturally think it's only you because of lack of willpower or weakness. But it's actually just, you realize it's not just you, it's everyone else struggles with it, but it's just different things, different ways.
Yeah.
But the struggle is natural to the human being because you're trying to change something that's deeply ingrained in you. Do you get what I'm saying? So we'll come to that as well. So for me, that's how, so from realizing it wasn't only me, I realized, oh, this is not just you, this is a natural human thing. Because
to fall off.
Yeah, because you talk to young guys, you talk to other middle age, and you talk to even elderly people who tell you they struggle with smoking. One of my favorite stories I always tell is my uncle, from Liverpool. He couldn't quit smoking. So I told him, uncle, if you don't change naturally, you the human person, you beat and berate yourself. And Allah takes an oath by the soul that beats itself. So he said, in the nafs Allah says, nafsu lawama, the soul that beats itself. So naturally, beating and berating yourself, it means you are violating something you value.
Yes.
Because as a human being, if you are beating and berating yourself, that means you are there's something you value that you've just violated. Now that could be if you hurt other people and you don't think that's right, but you did it. Do you know what I mean? So naturally, you beating and berating yourself is a good thing from the perspective of you just violated something valuable, so don't do that. So it's kind of like a trigger in it, conscious. It triggers your conscious. So I told my uncle, look, Allah takes an oath by the soul that beats you. So if you don't change, you beat yourself. So that means there's no point beating yourself. You might as well change, innit?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then he said to me, I know what you mean. I said, what happened, uncle? He said, I can't quit smoking. Just this morning, I was beating myself. So I said to him, what were you saying to yourself? He said, Na'as batai, which means he was calling himself stupid. Because he's smoking this morning and then
exactly, because you understand, you've got that innate guilt in you. We call it fitra. And when Adam the first human being, Adam, and his wife Eve, when they got evicted from Jannah, from the Garden of Eden, they said, Rabbana zalamna anfusana. Oh Lord, we have transgressed. We wronged ourselves. And you mentioned this as well, about the soul which is beating itself. And secondly, violation. You're violating your own sanctity. So you talk about human sanctity being more than just physical sanctity. Like you wouldn't let crap, dirt on your clothes. You're violating your sanctity. But sanctity in Islam, tahara, purity is not just of the clothes. That's important.
From the soul,
exactly.
From the soul,
And also what
your
you
psychology,
eat.
Your psychology.
Your psychology as well. It's a very important thing. I say to my clients, they said, I've got brain fog, cognitive clouding, I've got bad thoughts. I'm like, what are you eating? Oh yeah, I'm eating.
That's an effect.
I'm having takeaways at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night, and it's it's like fried food, deep fried food, processed food. Bad in, bad out. It's like bad fuel in a car. If people don't understand, if you've got a nice car, a V8 engine, you won't take it to Morrison's petrol or whatever. No qualms about Morrison's. Exactly. or any of the supermarkets, right? You wouldn't take it to a supermarket, right? You'll take it to V8 power fuel. You get it's the same. Treat yourself like a Ferrari. Why are you putting in bad fuel into your body? Because that's going to affect your soul. And we know in Islam as well, the worst thing Rasul told us, the worst vessel son of Adam fills is the vessel of his stomach. That is the worst vessel we fill. And we know this as well. What you eat should be your medicine. And even Hippocrates, who came before Rasul, he was a Greek doctor, right? Father of modern medicine, they call him. He said, let your food be thy medicine. And it's true. What you eat should give the shafa, should be wholesome. Tayyib, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says tayyib, not just halal. Things can be halal, but tayyib means pure, because essentially if you're poisoning your blood with food, you're poisoning your
or
thoughts.
with anything as well, because like we were just saying, even with any bad habits, because like even just if it's just food is one aspect, we're talking about even smoking or anything.
Exactly.
So any of these things they violate in like there's a psychology psychology law that's governing your own internal world. Like you said, if you as a doctor, you know physically if something is not right, then that means biologically there's something not right. You have to get to the root of the and not just deal with the symptom but the cause of it. So that's what I'm saying. As human beings, we got naturally that fitra. So fitra is like a compass, in it? It's like a compass that guides you.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
internal,
A moral compass.
Yeah, it's a moral compass that intuitively, and from there it stems from your conscious, because the conscious means you become aware of it. Because before it would be below your, let's say it's below your threshold.
Below the radar.
Threshold, below the threshold of your awareness, so below the radar. So as soon as you violated something, it, beep, beep, you get the natural.
They stop doing it.
Yeah, they stop doing it. Or you just, like you said, we use the word guilty or shame or bad. Do you get what I mean? Because you are valuing you. So for me, say I'm valuing my health, right? And then I'm smoking, and it even tells you on the pack. It tells it kills you, and then there's even imagery. You know what I mean? You're looking at it and you're paying money for it, and then it just doesn't contribute. That's what I'm saying. Purity of being pure, like authentic, even just to yourself. It's like you're violating your own thing. Do you know what I mean? So that's why anyway. So from that point on, I realized that the struggle was not just me. So from there stemmed curiosity. I became curious. I was thinking, okay, uncle, this person, that person, and so many other persons and other people who I was talking to. Then I realized, wow, behavior change is not easy. That dawned on me for the first time in my life, that behavior change was not easy. And even with colleagues, workmates, everything, I just realized that even with their own smoking, everything, talking to them, I realized that was like an insight for me into life. That behavior change was the hardest job that each person was ever going to do. I worked as a manual laborer for 10 years. I had a friend once tell me when I was starting at the beginning, like laboring, he said, this is the hardest job you will ever do. He said, anything after this would be easy. I would disagree with him now. I said, no, changing your behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
So that made me curious.
Because it's behavior change is twofold, isn't it? So it's introducing good behavior, good habits, and it's removing bad habits. So it's double.
It's double,
You know, it's a physical labor, it's just moving a heavy object. Whereas this is unlearning bad habits. And sometimes them bad habits are from childhood.
Or reprogramming, many years of deeply ingrained.
And then you have to factory reset your brain. Go to default settings. Factory reset. You know what I mean? Like, and then learn again. Put the apps on again. Reprogram yourself.
The software,
Because what's been downloaded is malware. From childhood, society, friends, sometimes parents.
No, of course, environment, we just say even sometimes life circumstances. You get into life circumstances which you might not be able to handle, and then you find like those kind of bad habits can be a short-term relief from dealing with those short-term. So let's say if somebody had a divorce, for example, they might fall into something to relieve them, whatever that bad habit is.
Exactly.
So that circumstance and that offend, that person might have been on a good run for all his life, but the one offend. You know what I mean? So those kinds of things. But I'm saying, so anyway, that made me became interested. So from that moment on, I did one of the best things that a Muslim person can do. I made a sincere prayer and dua to Allah, because I realized that behavior change was not easy. And then I realized, wow, I need you. Then for me, I made a sincere prayer to Allah to help me. I said, please, Allah, help me to change my ways, because I realized I'm not able to do it by myself. Do you know what I mean? And I always say I knew my dua was answered, because I soon found myself always Googling, how do you change your life? And I said, you know, when a Somalian guy meets publicly, he Googled, how do you change your life? The situation was serious.
How do you change your life? But this was what time? What year was that?
That was about 2010 was when I started researching. So it's nearly 13 years I've been investigating. But for the first, like from 2010 to about, say, say 2015, that 5 years, it was just a case of like research, like becoming. I was curious. So this time, instead of struggling, like the struggle, now I was more of a curious. I was researching, and then I was implementing. So then I would try something full of the wagon. Do you get what I mean? But this time I knew I had a bit more knowledge of it, because now I was reading books. But I even hardly ever read books in my life. But I started reading more books. You know, there's a funny story I always tell. And there was an Islamic scholar who used to read a lot of books, and then his wife got jealous of the books. Yeah. She said, "Man, I hate those books so much. I would rather have 3 co-wives."
You got married to the books, yeah, essentially.
Yeah, so I said the way I was going, I think Mrs. was going to say,
yeah. That was your first wife, right?
Really, yeah.
That became your new wife, yeah.
Yeah, but so from that, I was, then because I was researching and I saw. Obviously, from then I was investigating, and even just me changing myself and learning about it more. So the more I learned about habits, the more I became interested. You know what I mean? And then on top of all that, I realized that when I was talking to family and friends, they were not even aware. They were not even aware about the power of habits. I realized I was oblivious to habits for nearly 30 years, so I realized that everybody else was not even and then even further investigation. Many years later, I discovered, you know, like in Western psychologist researchers, from 1930 to 1990, they hardly did any research on habits.
Right. Okay, so half a century.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. But at the beginning of the century, at the 19th century, 20th century, the habits, like the first half, habits was many. If you look at like, what's his name, James,
Clear.
No, not James Clear. They say like the American father of psychology. I forgot what his name is. James something anyway, yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, there's so many other, from say like in 1989 to like 1930, habits was a big thing into the psychology research, philosophy, and but from 1930 to 1990, nobody hardly did any, because of you know, the behavioural
models.
Yeah, because you know, whoever's leading things, they take the course of the direction. So but that's what I'm saying.
And that's exactly, because I think it was that time Stephen R. Covey published.
Yeah, it was about 89, 1989.
The 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yeah.
And again, habits.
Yeah.
It was about habits.
He researched for about, that's what I'm saying, from 1980s to like for about a good 10 years he was researching. That book's a great book. But that's what I'm saying, it was about that time when people, but academically, it was 1991, 2 researchers wrote a paper which caught the attention of some young researchers then, who brought it forward since then. Do you get what I mean? But what I'm saying is, that's what I'm saying, like from that time, because it was hard, one of the things was, it was hard for them to measure habits.
You can't quantify it.
Yeah, you can't quantify it because they're relying on people's memory.
Yeah, and like their self-assessment.
Assessment, right? And there's, you know, and Benjamin Franklin said there's 3 things that's extremely hard: metal, diamond, and to know yourself.
That's true. The third one. The third one is introspection, right? You know, just having self-awareness.
But even that, you still, the thing is, it's hard to do that because because as human beings we're forgetful. So because we're naturally forgetful, if you're reflecting on it, unless you're doing it on an hourly basis, which gives you a bit more chance, that means it's rigid. So that means it's hard work. You know, if you're trying to observe your behavior every hour, that's hard. Do you know what I mean? And if you've got the time to do that.
Exactly.
But if you try to rely on it from when you woke up to the end of the night, to try to recall, it's going to be hard to remember.
Yeah, exactly. Because memory relies on emotions, by the way, as well.
Exactly.
And you know, certain senses like smell. Smell is the strongest, by the way.
Yeah.
You smell something. And it'll bring back a memory from childhood. 30 years ago. Smell is the strongest sensation we have in human body. It's, you know, it's very
trigger, isn't it?
It's exactly. So smell is the only thing. It's the only sense which is universal across all species. So you know, there's blind bats and moles. There's animals which can't hear. But every animal can smell. There's no animal that can't smell. You know, deers can smell water. Can you believe that? Deers, so they know they can smell water. Sharks can smell blood. So
Yeah.
every animal, some are blind, some are deaf, some can't feel.
But everyone's got
But
a universal.
yeah, smell is universal.
Yeah.
So, and they say it's the first sense to develop.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the most strongest smell, by the way.
Yeah.
It's the strongest sense, by the way.
Sense, yeah.
Because it brings back such, you know, you probably had done it before.
Yeah,
It's
you
happened to
smell
me.
perfume of someone or something, or even yourself, and then it triggers you,
Exactly, like
yeah.
I'm walking past an alley and I smell onions or something.
Yeah.
It reminds me of childhood in Pakistan.
Yeah.
I was 8 years old, I could smell the burning wood.
Yeah.
Like the other day is bonfire night, right?
Yeah.
I could smell burning wood.
Yeah.
And it reminded me in the 90s when I was a child,
Yeah.
going into the streets of Pakistan.
Particular
Yeah,
moment.
just
Very cool.
women cooking food in the evening
Yeah.
with log fires.
Yeah.
There was no ovens then, you know, like log fires. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's 30 years ago.
And it just triggered. Boom.
Just trigger. You
Yeah,
mentioned trigger.
yeah.
So you mentioned a good word there, experimenting.
Yeah.
You started experimenting with yourself.
Yeah, because you're trying to, because you, like you said, because habits. So I, first of all, I realized that the people, family, and friends, and people were completely oblivious to the power of habits, like I was. And so that's one. And then I was trying to change and experiment on changing habits and how you change habits and this kind of thing.
Right.
So I realized. And then I remember that at the night I became a street scientist. Yeah.
Experimenting, yeah?
Well, it was one night I wrote down a list of 10 brothers who I knew and were close to me and who all had similar kind of challenges. And I said, you know what? I said to myself, you know what? If you can figure out how to change bad habits and replace them with good ones, look how many other people
You can impact.
you can help.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
So from now, the dynamic of my psychology changed because now, as I was experimenting, I was also paying attention to the most subtle details because then I wanted to be able to teach it and explain it to people. So when I say to people, that's when I became aware. So for example, one of the things that fascinated me was in our self-talk, the way we talk to ourselves.
Yes.
Because how that affects and impacts and influences our decision and choices.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I realized, from realizing, I realized that most of the time we're not making conscious decision. Most of the time we're making subconscious decision. Then I realized that habits, we got these habits of thought or habits of mind which are literally driving our choices. So that's when I realized that habits, like I say, got three major. How do you know you have a habit? That's why I say, how do you know you have a habit? That was the first article I ever wrote, by the way.
That's good. How do you know you have a habit? Yeah.
So I said there's three major pillars. The three powerful pillars. The first one is there has to be a trigger. So a trigger is any cue or stimulus which kickstarts the behavior, right? That's one. And then we come to the trigger because there's 9 possible triggers, but each one of them is infinite.
Right, okay.
So we'll come back to the trigger. Trigger me to remember.
I'll trigger you, yeah?
Otherwise I'll forget, yeah. The second one is automatic. It's automatic because you do it. That's why we say second nature, mindless, autopilot. Do you know what I mean? And we say sometimes routine. It's routine, but there's a subtle difference between habit and routine. So habit is just one action. Routine is several habits that cluster together. So do you know what I mean? So it becomes a routine because it's automatic. So it's second nature.
Yeah.
And then the third one is all habits reward you. The bad habits reward us with immediate pleasure or temptation, desire, or in laziness, whatever. They reward us with relief straight away, like immediately, in the moment.
Yeah.
But their consequence always in the long term or in the future.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And good habits, on the other hand, their consequences tends to be now in the present moment because they tend to be hard, difficult, effortful to
Friction.
form. Yeah, friction.
You've got to come across the friction.
There's a friction in the moment now, but their reward is always in the long term or in the future. So now we understand these, but that's why when it comes to reward, they give us a relief, a short-term relief, but they can bring us long-term pain.
Yes.
Do you get what I mean? The bad ones. So if you think about it like that, where the good ones, they bring us their short-term pain in the moment because they're difficult, they're hard, if they do the days, the weeks, or whatever to form. But their reward is always in the long term. So that's what I'm saying. That's how that's why in psychology we have to look at it like that. We're making decision. Is it decision that's easy on the moment or a hard choice that will bring us long term?
So you have to change your perspective.
You have to change your mindset.
Because we're geared towards today. We're geared towards instant gratification.
We're biased. We're biased today. Yeah. So as human beings, Allah has made us wired and biased for now. And even if we look at the grand scheme of life, even if we say this worldly life, where like you could have this worldly life and then you can sacrifice your afterlife, because then you'll pass away sometime anyway. So do you get what I'm saying? So but then it's like, even in this world, we understand if a student he's in school for how many years? Let's say 5 years. If he dedicates himself for 5 years, then he's more likely to have a great future. But if he messes about in school,
true.
then after that will be a bit more harder for him. He might still have a great life, but it will be more challenging. So that's what, even uni, if you go to uni, you dedicate yourself for X amount of years, and then you'll have a greater reward in the long term. Or you can chill out, party, girls, whatever you want to do, and then but it will be bad. It might be enjoyable now, but then you're studying. The studying, your learning will be affected. So it's kind of like grand scheme of like that. So I'm saying all habits. Bad habits reward us now, but the long term, they bring long term consequences. And good habits are hard to form in the moment. Their consequences now, but they bring that. So most important, and then in this case, is to understand the triggers. Because if you're going to change your mindset, you have to understand the triggers and the cue which kickstart your behavior. So the triggers can be your thoughts, feeling, situation, people, place, time, object, with his coffee or drink or whatever, or phone, or it's today one of the most dangerous is phone. Smartphone, because it's taking a lot of time. And then the other one is when it's part of the eighth one is when it's part of a routine. So if it's part of a routine, as long as the one preceded comes, then the routine will start. Do you get what I mean? Yeah, because it's several habits that cluster together. So that means there's a sequence or a pattern. Do you get what I mean? So you have to understand that pattern. And then the fourth one is body language. So if I smile at you or frown at you, if we're walking the street and I smile at you or frown at you, it's going to change the dynamic of your psychology, because frown at you, you're going to think, what's he looking at? If I smile, you're more likely. So that's what I'm saying, body language as well changes.
So 9 triggers, right?
9 triggers, but each one of them can be infinite. So thoughts, feelings, situation, people, place, time, object, other routine, and body language. 9. But each one of them, how many thoughts? Good thoughts, bad thoughts, see what I mean?
Yeah, so James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits, about the importance of configuring your environment to your benefit. So if your environment's got chocolate around it or biscuits, you're gonna end up binging.
Yeah, because it's gonna trigger you.
So minimize, like environment here, it's minimalistic. Be minimalism. Have you come across that term? Minimalism, essentially taking bandwidth away from your mind. So you skew your house in the direction of good habits. So you might have so I know some people decorate their room in like a minbar, like a prayer room. So it reminds them to pray. And they'll get rid of the television. They'll put their gym shoes at the door. So they know, when I'm walking past, it's a trigger, right? So everything is minimalistic. Everything is geared and biased. You mentioned bias. It's biased towards positive action, and it's essentially increasing friction for bad habits. So friction is, for instance, if there's a vending machine there, you're more likely to get it. If the vending machine is at the bottom, you're less likely to get it. And this is the whole psychology of aisles. The supermarket. The marketing space. You pay a premium to be for that to be at eye level. Because you're walking at eye level, it's less friction for you to look down.
You're triggered.
Exactly. Whereas the things which are less desirable are hidden away. Not less desirable, as in
the people would want or buy.
The company which pay less, their product will be at the back. The companies that pay more, they pay for the eye level. It's essentially short-circuiting your decision to buy.
That's what I'm saying.
Consumer decisions, and this is a concept called neuroeconomics, where billboards and all these shop floor configurations are biased towards buying.
They're basically triggering your behavior without you not even aware. So that's when I realized, because I became interested in the self-talk. Then I realized most of us we only make a conscious decision if there's a certain amount of the pros and the cons are big. Do you get what I mean?
Tipping point.
Tipping point. But most of the time, our experience, everyday life experience flows. It flows so smoothly that habits are guiding it. But you get what I mean. So it's not like we're making a decision. If you make they say food, you might make about 200 choices, but you're not consciously standing there making 200 choices. It's just because it's subtle habits, you just made 200
You're streamlining,
choices.
isn't it? You're chunking a lot of them together.
That's it,
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So habits make our life easy and smooth. They literally make our easy and smooth. And one of the purpose, if you think about what is the purpose of habit, neuroscience are now discovering once you have a habit, it eliminates two important things: attention and decision making. Because once you have a habit, you don't pay attention to making a choice, and you don't make a decision because you do it automatically. So now I'll give an example. Say, look when you're learning, because when you look at learning to drive a car, take for example learning to drive a car. It's like mirror, signal. There's so many moving parts.
Exactly. Conscious.
But it overwhelms you.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. So even if you put it in gear 2, if the car is crying out, put me in gear 3. This person can't hear because he's overwhelmed. And then the driving instructor say the car will come. But then after a few weeks of it becoming a habit, he will start noticing me, and then he will know that sound. That sound will trigger him.
Of course.
So what I'm saying is, because if there's too many moving parts, as a human beings, we can't be aware all the time. That would be consuming too much air. You'd be using too much energy. So the habit is a gift from Allah. Allah says, Allah says in Surah Rum, Surah Rum, the Roman, even Allah mentioned Romans, in Surah Rum.
The Stoics, the Romans were Stoics.
Were powerful as well.
That's Stoics mindset.
There's a whole verse there called the Romans, about the Romans. But in there, as the 30th chapter, in the 8th verse, Allah says, أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Do they not think deeply about themselves and how we created them? So even if you look at your biology, your psychology, how we are created, that itself is a source of fascination. But we don't pay attention. I say the human mind is like, I call it the mental machinery. So the mental machinery, one of the most powerful software that we can all leverage is habits. Because habits make our life easy and smooth. But we just have to make a conscious decision of the habits we want to form and the ones we want to break. So we see the ones that will help us to succeed and the ones that are holding us back. So we want to break the ones that are holding us back. But first is becoming aware of those and being honest with yourself, the ones that are holding you back. And then being aware of those triggers and realizing that most of the time, like 9 out of 10 times, you're not even making the decision. The habits are making the decision for you. So if you pay attention to your everyday life, you notice so many. And sometimes as well, when we talk about habits as well, another thing we get wrong about habits as well is the word itself. We actually, when I always ask people, when I say the word habit, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? People always, 9 out of 10 always say in some sort of a bad habit. They say like smoking or something, addiction. And I realized we're making a mistake. We link the word and associate it with just negative things. But the word actually just means an action or behavior you do without much awareness. You're not even aware most of the time, without much conscious awareness. That's what it is. So it's an action or behavior you do without so it's neutral. So I say the habits have the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beauty.
Exactly. It's like the word smell. So when I said the word smell, 9 times out of 10 you think it's a bad.
We link it with bad smell.
Smell just it's a sensation, right? It could be a good smell.
Good smell as well.
It could be a bad smell. A bad smell is called stink. That's the bad smell.
But we link the word itself with negativity, its connotation.
In a negative. But you mentioned something there. The whole purpose of habits, once they've been consciously curated.
But that means we have the intention. We have to have the intentionality.
You got to have time to curate them. It's like I always describe habits, good habits anyway, as a task management system. That's what it is. So in a computer, you've got a TMS, task management system, which does the background stuff for you. So you can concentrate on the creative stuff. It's like AI. AI will take away the graft. The graft from human endeavor. So AI, essentially, habits are like the AI of the mind. They take away the cognitive load from decision making. Because I'll give you an example. If you look at most entrepreneurs, by the way, most entrepreneurs, Zuckerberg, Musk, even Bezos, especially Steve Jobs, they wore the same, even Obama, they wore the same suits, by the way.
Because they're trying to save this.
They're trying to say, there's something called decision fatigue. I remember when I first started working as a doctor, I was living with my parents at the time, and I'd come home or you know, my mum would say, what do you want for food?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a norm. I don't know what to say because I've literally made 3,000 decisions in a day.
Yeah.
Complex, life-saving decisions.
Yeah.
And I don't know what, so I'm like, just make whatever's there, I'll eat it. She said, no, what do you want?
Overwhelmed,
I'm actually, because decision fatigue.
Yeah.
I'm decision fatigue. So people like Zuckerberg, and if you look at Steve Jobs,
Yeah.
when he was alive, he'd wear the same clothes every single day.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's the same exact one, it was just the same color.
Same color, yeah.
So he knows today I'm wearing a black turtleneck.
Yeah.
Tomorrow the same.
Yeah.
Same food.
He could have 10, 15, 20
Exactly.
of them, but
It's the same color. So he doesn't have to think, oh, what color is it going to match?
Yeah.
No, he's got the same. It's example I gave of Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
When we spoke before this, Michael Phelps had the same breakfast at the same time, did the same laps, you know, and he just had a routine.
Yeah.
He had a ritual almost. It was like a ritualistic. He had the same ritual because he didn't want any cognitive bandwidth on anything other than performing in the evening, which was his
He's
race.
just focused. That's what he's focused on.
So he wants to minimize cognitive, because the cognitive bandwidth
Yeah.
is very, very, it's finite. It's like a phone battery.
Yeah.
What do you do with a phone battery? You put it in flight mode, or you put it in battery saver mode.
Yeah.
It shuts off apps.
Yeah.
Shuts off the apps. You
He's
want
saving the energy.
exactly. If you know,
thing,
if you know you got, you know, you won't get a charger.
Yeah.
So you conserve the battery. It's the same. The brain takes up glucose.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a wattage like from a power supply, like
energy.
glucose. So you conserve that, and you conserve. You know, that's why they say rates of cheating, you know, adultery, cheating, or any bad binging, you know, whatever, any bad habit or any bad action happens in the evening.
You know, because people are now
willpower's weak. You're not going to wake up and say, you know what, today I'm going to drink and I'm going to smoke and I'm going to eat a burger.
Yeah, because you're not going to make a smart decision because you're so low on energy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
so
what I'm
in
saying.
the evening, willpower is weak, and that's why you got to get the things away from the willpower into routine. And even discipline can fluctuate.
No, discipline is well, but if you look at discipline, that's why we're saying, like, so, you know, that's why they say in the most healthiest, happiest, and successful people in all walks of life are those who have created smart habits and routines which are effective, because now that in order to do that you would have to actually have a clear goal. So it kind of gives you, so you got a clear mental clarity or direction of what you want, and then from there would start making the good decision that help you stay focused on it. But that will again go back to saying, like, you would have to get, but you know, that's what I'm saying. When we first of all, that thing about the habit, we get it wrong with, we link it with negative things. Then because of that, we don't realize that it's actually the mental habits and the emotional habits, or as I say, the habits of the heart, habits of the mind, habits of the soul. We don't realize that these are all going on below the threshold, because we actually link the word with just negative connotation. Do you get what I'm saying? So we even get the word wrong at the beginning. Then that's why I just say to them, look, become aware of the power of habits, because they're running the show.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. They're running the show.
Yeah.
They're running the show subconsciously. They're taking over your life.
Yeah.
And what's happening is, then, you know, your thoughts become your actions. Your actions become your habits. Your habits become your destiny. You know this, right? It's a forward process, right? And so people often forget what's underlying that is thoughts.
It's thoughts,
It's either conscious thoughts or subconscious thoughts. And we say in Islam, waswasa.
Waswasa.
You know, this kind of subconscious, below the threshold, below the radar, thoughts, insinuations which aren't being picked up. When they're picked up, you think, oh, then you can process them. You become aware. Do I get rid of it or do I leave it? If it's good, you keep it.
You keep it,
of course.
of course.
If it's bad, you get rid of it. So insinuations.
It goes below the threshold of your awareness. You know, you remind me, you triggered me a funny story. This is why one of my favorite stories I tell is the legendary tale of a crazy Somalian guy. He used to walk around the street talking to himself, so everyone knew him as the crazy guy, innit? So one day someone said to him, hey Chama, you always talk to you, so what do you talk about? He said, listen mate, there's two versions, each one is funnier than the other. The first version, he said, legend has it, he said, listen, I'm not the only one who talks to myself. He said, I only make myself to hear what I'm saying. So he's saying,
everyone's talking to himself.
Everyone, but it's like he's basically doing me and you having thoughts. He's doing what me and you call having thoughts, because we call it thinking, having thoughts. But really, it's just a form of self-talk, because you ask a question, you answering it, you ask it, or you thinking about it, or whatever, or what do I want, where do I want to go, and what do I eat, what shall I eat? You know what I mean? All these are decisions that you're doing it, but you call it thinking thought. But they went to take the mick out of him, but he said, I'm only making myself to hear what I'm saying. So he's saying instead of it going below the threshold of his awareness, he's bringing it up so he can actually make it. But the second version is more funny. He said, listen, man, I'm not the only one who talks to myself. He said, everyone talks to themselves. The only difference is I argue with myself.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just told that story to bring it aware to them that, look, you're having so many thoughts, X amounts of thoughts. There's even an estimate we have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, yeah? And most of them are under that.
Yeah.
Even I heard, what's his name, in Trump, in the 80s, they maybe estimated we have 50,000 thoughts a day. So even there's a quote by Trump says, listen, you have 50,000 thoughts a day, why not make them good or something like this?
Yeah, true.
So that you can be successful in that. So anyway, and there's another verse as well. Allah says, وَأَسِرُوا قَوْلُكُمْ أَوْ اجْهَرُوا بِهِ إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Allah in the Quran talking about whom.
In Surah Jummah.
Yeah, Surah Al-Mulk. The dominant.
Yes, Surah Al-Mulk, yeah.
Allah says, there's many verses where Allah mentions that because it talks about that.
Latif al-Khabir.
Yeah, because that means he knows the secrets of the heart.
Latif means subtle.
Yeah, subtle. Subtle and acquainted. He's saying he's subtle and acquainted with everything you think and do. So Allah, so that's what he means. But in this verse, he says, whether you say it out loud or whether you keep it in, he said he knows the secrets of the heart, and he said, he know he's subtle and acquainted. He's aware with the subtle, and he's acquainted with the subtle. So the most subtle thought you could have, Allah is aware of it. But the point I'm trying to say is most of us, we're not aware of the amount of thoughts. If I say to you 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, what thoughts were you having? I'm sure there were some thoughts. Maybe you remember, like when you mentioned you're the emotional one, the emotionally charged ones. You remember them, or if they are relevant to maybe like a podcast today or something you need to do. But other than that,
it goes into subconscious.
The others will be gone. So you might just remember a few points that were emotionally charged or were relevant to something you need to do or want to do. Other than that,
it
could have been. You could have had a thought. Like now, when you said that, you know, when you had that smell that day, and it triggered you being in Pakistan 30 years ago or being in London or wherever. When you triggered that bonfire night. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Those moments, look. Those were coming. Another thing we forget is we get triggered, but we have imagery. We think in imagery. That's another thing we don't realize. Sometimes, you know, they say, what did they say? A picture is worth
1,000 words.
Now imagine that picture you had of that bonfire that night. That's an image. That's a mental imagery.
Powerful.
It's powerful. Instead of you saying it out 1,000 words,
exactly.
that image was 1,000 words.
Yeah, true. It evokes strong sense of emotions, and you know, even Andrew Huberman said a couple of weeks ago, and it surprised a lot of people as well. But if you look at it scientifically, it shouldn't be surprising. He says the brain is so complex. It's so complex. It's infinitely complex, by the way. We can't compute how complex the brain is. Just the brain. Never mind the rest of the organs. Okay, the brain that it can only but believe in God. You know, that's what he said. He said you can only. He said it's impossible not to believe in God when the brain is so complex. And you know, you mentioned there, you know, thoughts in the background. So you've got thoughts which they get dumped like garbage, some of them, because you know, some of them get dumped like garbage. So you've got something called the glial matter. The glial matter is the...
Is that a brain system? Or is that like a cells?
Yeah, so in the brain, so glial cells are in the brain, they like mop up dead thoughts. That's what they do. So essentially, it's like, you know, on your computer, you run a overnight antivirus software just to complete. That's what the glial matter does. This is why sleep's so important. At sleep time, this is why you're dreaming, because things are coming to you, although you're semi-conscious during sleep, right? You're semi-conscious, suspended. Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says sleep is like death, right? He says we take it away the souls at night time. So essentially, your soul's taken away at night time, right? And it is returned to you. So you're soulless.
At that moment, but you can still, the machinery is still going on.
The machinery is still going on, right? The brain is still wired. So glial matter is working at night time to clear up any bad thoughts. That's why some dreams are bad, which we're not supposed to tell people. Some dreams are good, but they're so vivid. They're so vivid.
So vivid to you, but you can't. You're like suspended.
You're suspended, So consciousness, you know, is such a, you know, abstract concept. What is consciousness? And
that's why even the scientists and philosophers, they're struggling with that, because that's what I'm saying, the mental machinery is still to today not understood.
It's not understood.
You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why, like, you know, you got, like what you're saying there, you got, the subsystems of like you awareness, you being aware. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of thing, and also like imagination, imagineering, or just
imagineering. I like that self-talkology and imagineering. Yeah, this is your
imagineering, the art and science of dreaming. Because if you want to imagine the future, you have to see, when you say when you're doing that, that's when you literally imagine the future, because no one knows the future except Allah. But you are engineering or imagineering your future. So when you have a vision of a future, you are thinking of that. You've got an image. There has to be a vision or an image of how you want it. And then you're thinking, and then obviously it also has to be emotionally charged, that you're so excited and passionate about achieving that goal. You know, if it's dim,
it has to evoke emotion.
It has to evoke the emotion. So it has to. That means it's alive in your heart. It has to be alive. So you can picture it. That's why we say, imagine that, picture that. We say that, we know that language. So sometimes what we don't realize is when we call thinking or thoughts or having self-talk, we're doing it not literally in words. We're doing it in imagery as well. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, like now, some person might dwell on the past, and then it means he's not that. He means he's dwelling on. Let's say he's dwelling on a negative emotion that happened in the past. That means that person is mentally replaying a mental movie in imagery. And then he's the interpretation. Do you get what I mean? His interpretation, he's playing it, and then he's doing it in self-talk. But it's like commentary. He's doing his own commentary.
Exactly.
On that imagery. But look where he is. He's in there. In the past.
He's still a character in that past.
In the past, and then also negatively, he's evoking negative emotion. If you had a bad feeling about it, and then I'm saying now that person really, he's rewiring his habit. Because remember, I said to you, your attention can go to the past, present, or the future. So you see, when we're talking about self-control, we're talking about really controlling your attention. And the only way you can control your attention is by directing it to what you focus on. So if you focus on the image of the future, or if you focus on like our conversation now, or if you focus on the past, you get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like the way you directing, that's what you're going to interpretate. So I'm saying we don't even realize we're doing all that stuff because most of it is all habits.
Yes, exactly.
You get it?
Habits is like autopilot for the brain.
It's like autopilot, And
you know, there's a, you know, that period you mentioned, like 1930s, 1940s, some great books came out. So another one that came out during that 10 decades, them 10 years, was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he says exactly the same thing.
He researched all the successful people
exactly.
at that time.
And even mentioned Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in there as well. And he's mentioned in there. Essentially, you think rich. You think of something. And thinking, then you're more likely to bring it into physical existence.
Of course,
through transmuting your thoughts.
Because that's what I'm saying. Because when you think about that, when you think about something, that's why they say wherever you pay attention to grows.
True, exactly.
Because if you're paying attention to something, so for me, like I was thinking about how do I change my bad habits. If you were to, if I was walking down the street in 2010 and you were able to eavesdrop on me, what's it called?
Eavesdrop,
eavesdrop on me. You would hear me say, "Oh man, how do I stop this smoking?" That's what, and then you'd be, well, what's he saying? Do you know what I mean? You would have eavesdropped on me saying like, how do I quit this bad habit? I want to quit it. I'm sick and tired of this. That would be my internal.
You were obsessed with it at the time.
Because I wanted to. I was so upset because also, you know, another thing is there's many reasons, but I'll give you one story. First of all, from Islamic perspective, if you believe smoking is haram or forbidden, but you're doing it, now you're already naturally creating guilt. Do you get what I'm saying? That's one.
Guilt and shame are, by the way, the strongest emotions we have.
So now you're feeling guilty and shame in the eyes of Allah because He's given you good health, but you're violating that gift. So it's kind of like saying, "Oh, thanking Allah, oh, thank you for the health," but then. That's kind of like, are you sure you're thankful for?
That's true.
Because that's so you feel bad. So you feel like you're committing bad sin. That's why even the word sin now, because we like growing up in the West, we don't hear the word sin anymore. But it's still a bad habit.
Exactly.
So first of all, from Islamic perspective, I was feeling bad and guilty and shame about smoking and chewing cat. Right. That's one. Two, health. I knew I was violating my health, so I was feeling bad about in smoking and that. And also as a father, I was thinking my daughter, my oldest daughter now, Ali, she's 16, mashallah. When she was 3 years old, I remember, and I swapped smoking for tobacco. And you know, she went into my coat pocket. Imagine she was about less than 3. She was less than 3, just about to turn 3. She went to my coat pocket, and one day she went to my coat pocket, and I smoked, you know, like in tobacco. Roll-ups, yeah. She was on the floor, and she got the tobacco out, and the wrist, like, she was like this. That means, it's, you know how complex it is to do that. And if she was like made a mess of everything, but the fact that means she was trying to crack it. That means she must have observed me so many times, putting the tobacco in there and doing that, and you got to show her little young mind is observing that. Then even sometimes when I go to the back garden, she would be at the window. So I was saying, as a father, I would not say to her, and if she starts smoking tomorrow, I would be saying, no, it's no good for you.
Yeah, you picked, yeah,
she learned from me, and then you'll be a hypocrite if you're telling her that's no good for you. But you're doing it. So if you want to be a good father and be a good example to them, then that's not a good thing. So I had all that thing. And then on top of that, financially, smoking didn't make sense.
True.
to kill
a
yourself.
pack is like £20 or something. I don't know how much it is now.
In 2010, it was less than that. But even then, it was a nightmare. So that's what I'm saying. So I had all those good reasons. So that's when I realized that good intention, desire, motivation are all good things to have. But unless you have total commitment, then habits are going to win. That's why I coined this little I coined this little term. I say, strong habits eat your good intention for breakfast.
I like that. You know,
because so that's why for me, the most important thing for me, I always say, is once you have clarity on what you want. So in this case, if I wanted health with smoking, or if I wanted to quit smoking for Allah's sake, and so on and so forth, to be a good father, or to be a good example to my kid. If you have that clarity and that desire is really strong and motivation is strong, it has to be backed up by 100% total commitment.
Yes.
Because if you have 99,
you gotta go all in.
99%. If you have 99%, you've opened the door for hesitation.
Yeah, exactly. Because the threshold the floodgates only open. Have you heard of the action potential?
Yeah.
So it's something called activation energy.
Yeah.
So you've got to get to a certain level of activation energy. Once you got to that, the floodgates open, and action only happens there. That's the threshold.
Yeah.
You've got to get to that level. And you know, you mentioned something there about kids.
Yeah.
I've got kids, you've got kids, alhamdulillah, you know, they're growing quickly, man.
Yeah, they're going to see you
quickly. And they say, when it comes to kids, don't tell them, show them.
Yeah, it's even it just makes sense that, you know, to be, what's the word, integrity. Is it integrity?
Yeah, integrity,
like authentic. If you just, even just to yourself, that's what I'm saying, if that's what you're trying to be, so you're trying to line your thoughts, feeling and behavior. As a human being, that's what you want to do in every moment, situation. You want to always, to the best of your ability, line your thoughts, feeling and behavior to what you value, or to your best. Now, that's not easy, because like your emotions can come. So sometimes the craving and the urge to smoke is more powerful than all that good intention of being lining your thoughts, feeling and action together.
True.
That's what I'm saying. So that's when you're going to fall off the wagon. Because the old program is more powerful than your inkling decision, because it's still new, it's still fresh.
Exactly.
So, you know, you reminded me about the activation thing. You know, even physically, you know, fire. I think there was is it 450 degree? You have to get to a 450 degree
before it fires.
Before I think 451 or something. The
spark.
Yeah, before you spark something that. That's what I'm saying. If you get to 451, I think it was something like that. If you get to 450, it won't start.
It won't start. Yeah, exactly. It's just 100%.
104.51. It's just like once you keep. So the same activation. So that's why I say. That's why now it comes to most important is getting mental clarity on what it is you want, and once you have that, that's when you're gonna try to like self-leadership. You're gonna try to the family, friends, you know, like even like the old triggers, circumstances. You're trying not to let all these trigger you, and then of course trying to arrange the environment. Like one of the best things that happened for me that helped me the first couple of years was Friday, Saturday was the day I used to go in like chew cat, for example, and smoking or whatever. I stopped going. I replaced it with going football. I met new friends, and I started playing Friday and Saturday. I started going football.
Right.
So my Friday. So like say I used to work in construction, and then so after like you go from 6 in the morning to like you get home about 4 or 5 in the evening. And then that would be your week. But Friday, you know, Friday. What's funny? Friday, about in the morning when I wake up, I'll be excited about. It's like somebody who goes out on a Friday night. They're excited about, oh, tonight's Friday night, and Friday you wake up feeling alive.
Yeah.
Rest of the week you just go through that.
So you had something to. It was something to look forward to, and you know that looking forward to that reward, that intrinsic reward or extrinsic reward even, is dopamine. So dopamine then motivates you. People think of dopamine as a motivation, as the pleasure hormone. It is, by the way, it is the pleasure hormone. But the pleasure is in the pursuit. You know that? The pleasure is in the pursuit. The pleasure is not in attaining it. The pleasure is in the chase. You know? So I'll give you an example. A long time ago, before COVID, I was a sports doctor. So I was a doctor for a few football clubs. Tennis, I was doctor for swimmers, cricket team in Loughborough, Nottingham. And honestly, these athletes, they had everything going for them. Contracts and, you know, healthy and money, etc. When they win or attain their goal, they'll get depressed. I swear to God. They will get depressed after they, and there's actually cases.
After they achieve the
so it's Tyson Fury is an example. He got depressed after he won the heavyweight world title. There's actually Paul Radcliffe and a lot of these athletes, when you go to their dressing room after they win, they're actually sad. They're sad. They're crying from sadness, not happiness, they're crying from sadness. The euphoria goes and they get sad. Because the pursuit's gone now.
It's that buzz in it. Because the buzz is like a buzz, and the enjoyment of it is the pursuit.
Exactly, because they then, you know, one of the chief causes of depression is existential crisis. They then hit an existential crisis because they've attained what they were working for every single day. They had a reason to wake up.
Sometimes now that's why sometimes if you look at, when we're talking about attaining goals, whether that's like getting married, like, or having kids, or and winning a medal or a trophy or becoming a heavyweight champion, I think sometimes like they say, there's the means and the end. Sometimes we get from an Islamic perspective. If you have a purpose, so if you have a purpose of what is the purpose of your life, so from Islamic perspective as Muslims, if we believe and Allah said He created us to worship Him, so if your purpose is to worship Him, that's your purpose. The other things, the other enjoyment and the other things is kind of like
it's supplementary. It's on the side
to the purpose. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying if I was a footballer. And winning the World Cup was my purpose.
Yes.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Once I won it,
my
purpose is gone.
My purpose is finished.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the means and the end. So it's kind of confusing doing something for something else. So if you're doing it, so that's what I'm saying. Sometimes that's why I always say to people as well, every single human being, even talking about self-talk and thoughts, this is the thoughts that will cross everyone's mind. From the king of a nation to a
peasant,
or a homeless person, let's just say, wherever. Everybody, the thought will cross their mind because of their natural in the moral compass to know what to search for the truth, the true nature of things. That's why you say, what is the you naturally you will wonder what is the everything has a purpose. The shoes, our camera, everything has a purpose. But so as a human being, if your shoes have a purpose. And you don't have a purpose, that would not make sense, right? As human beings, we're the ones who run this world. We're like, Khalifa.
Yes,
the ambassador.
Khalifatul Ard. Allah says,
ambassadors on earth.
Yeah, exactly.
He made us to be, and He said generation after generation. Allah said He created us. He will create generation after generation of human beings.
Inherit the earth.
As ambassadors to inherit. So we're really, if you look at every other animals,
they've been subjected to us.
Everything is subjected to us, even the gift of, even the ocean. If the ocean and the sea, if Allah made the ocean go, you saw the tsunami that can happen, the tsunami in 2004 that happened. The ocean is subjected to us. If Allah, that's why the boast, Allah says they see through. So what I'm saying is, the point I'm trying to say is, the questions that will cross everyone's mind is, like, you just naturally ask, what is the purpose and the meaning of your life? And that's why we even intuitively have that question, what on earth are you doing here?
What are you doing here? What is your why?
We say, what on earth are you doing here? Just think about it, what on earth? Like, if I saw you, what on earth are we doing here? That literally is an intuitive question, what on earth are you doing here? So naturally, it's a big question. So people, you have to have courage to even instead of again and shoo, you have to have to even contemplate it. So naturally, you're going to wonder, what's the purpose of your life? What's the meaning of life? What on earth are you doing here? Where did you come from? Why are you here? Where are you going? All these are natural, intuitive questions. As human beings, because they create uncertainty, fear will come into. So most people naturally, and it's not because it's just naturally human beings. We don't like the unknown or uncertain.
Yeah, of course.
So we're gonna more likely to shoo it away. The problem with that is how long can you shoo it away without it popping up?
Of course, you can't suppress it. And you know, they say humans would choose certain misery over uncertain happiness.
Yeah, because it's
You know
challenge.
this,
Yeah.
so I mean, a lot of guys will stay in jobs, whatever, that they don't like. They're miserable,
Yeah.
but it's certain.
At least they know that.
It's
as well.
stable, yeah. So
Yeah.
you know, we're inclined. It goes back to preservation of energy, conservation of energy. We've heard of entropy.
Yeah.
Entropy, you know, how energy and disorder and chaos, essentially, catharsis, and you know, all these things are release of energy.
Yeah.
And you know, essentially, energy is in the universe. How we are created, heat and you know, hydrocarbons. So our intrinsic bias is towards preserving energy. Anything which causes us uncertainty or instability, we will not do it. So humans, and this is why you get a lot of people in miserable jobs and marriages and so many things, because they will prefer certainty of the misery. It's miserable, but it's certain. Then uncertainty.
And it becomes a habit. If you look at it, it becomes a deeply ingrained habit of why. Because you get used to being miserable, and it actually becomes a habit.
It becomes your baseline.
It becomes your baseline. That's what I'm saying. Then that's what I'm saying. The habits. That's when I realized the habits were running the show. Because even you become like that, you stay in that job. So now, if you look at in any society, throughout history, every culture, the most admired people are always people with courage.
Yes.
Think about that. Why?
Yes.
Because it's not because they have no fear. Is they have the fear.
They acted regardless.
But they regardless. That's why we admire them in every culture. If you look at history, in every culture, every society, any time, always, a courageous person will always be admired. And we admire, that's why we admire heroes in the film.
Khalid bin Walid, the sword of Allah. As you know, the book, it's on your Instagram.
I read
your Instagram.
I read the book,
What a biography. You're right, courage, even we wouldn't be here, by the way.
But that's what I'm saying, like that courage of even the courage of to think, even just think about this for a moment. If you think about your human potential, none of us know what our potential can be.
Yeah, unless we're brave enough to take that step.
Unless we become curious enough to what we can achieve. Because no one knows, if somebody else can achieve anything, we can do it as well. But even for us to even contemplate and question your human potential, or where the capacity of it is, you wouldn't probably, even if you lived 1,000 years, you probably wouldn't.
That's true.
You wouldn't probably reach it. But the point I'm trying to say, we don't even consider. We don't even if we don't think about the purpose of life and the meaning of life or what's to come after. Even if we don't even think about that, we don't even think about what our potential is, what we can achieve in this life.
No.
That's what I'm saying, and this life is just temporary. But imagine we're not even thinking greatness on this, because that's what I'm saying. Because it's our habits, our thinking habits, have limited us to what we can do. And of course, we can go to environment, circumstance, but it will all start with, you know, there's a verse where Allah says, إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغير ما بأنفسهم. For indeed, for sure, Allah will never change the conditions of a people until they change what's within themselves. That's why even like as Muslims now, we're always just complaining about in what's happening with Palestine and Israel and America backing them up. All this stuff, that's secondary. It's most important, we need to change ourselves.
Yeah, of course.
We've gone so far away
100%.
from religion, closeness to Allah, that we know we instead of like thinking, how do I get closer to Allah so He can support us and back us? Because this is just temporary in nature. Because many empires have come and gone through and come through. This is just something like that. But each time, even that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, history. Like when, for example, the Muslims ruled Spain for 800 years. The moment they became in what, like in one like places, like, you know, like how like you got Qatar, you got this, you got. I'm saying the moment people defied
nationalistic.
Once they became like that, then they were gone.
Yeah, true. No, there was no unity there.
There was no unity. So that's what the point I'm trying to say is change always comes from your inside. It has to come from you have to formulate that intention. You have to formulate and articulate your intention to yourself of what it is you want and what you want to do.
No, exactly.
Yeah, so
100%. No, I agree. You have to be. You have to have integrity. It's a job. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And Fusaim, Allah
not robbing banks.
But
inside,
Ibrahim, it's been absolute pleasure, and we're gonna have part 2, part 3, part 4. We're gonna have part 10 with you, honestly, because you mashallah read a lot of books, and you know we share a lot of similar interest.
Yeah.
And I felt like I learned a lot. I've
Yeah,
learned a lot from you.
No, likewise as well. Talking to you the last few weeks every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna have lots of insights. So we'll break for prayer. How can people find you?
And I'm on Instagram as the Human Habit Guy.
On
Inshallah.
Spotify and YouTube.
Also, I've done a podcast, over 100 episodes on
Cool.
Human Habit Podcast on Spotify. Inshallah, we plan to do video versions together.
Cool.
So that would be
Fantastic.
Good,
So we'll do that, and been a pleasure. Thank you so much,
Mm.
and we'll meet again soon.
Inshallah, just
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.